infraction regarding possession of real property by trustee of deed of trust to collect rents and profits, you go back to the statute. So that makes me believe, or that confirms for me, that possession of a property before foreclosure is prohibited. Absolutely. There's just no and or buts about it.
We need to basically recognize that what the banks are doing to citizens like Jane here is really criminal activity.
You got that right.
It's not only myself facing this kind of a situation,
right.
And there are millions of people are in the same position.
Unless we as activists take things in our own hands, it's not going to change. And what's happening elsewhere, things that are worse in other cities, are going to happen in Seattle.
A borrower needs to know who they're supposed to be negotiating with. Right? The note has to go first, and the deed of trust is simply incident to that transfer. If you just get transferred the deed of trust, you got nothing.
Went on down to the courthouse yesterday. I can't believe what I saw.
They've totally obfuscated who actually owns what, depriving Ms. Pardo of her ability to actually negotiate with the note holder and come to some agreement.
Originally, the note holder was the
Land Home,
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Land Home assigned it allegedly to who?
We have no idea.
Oh.
That's the problem. That's why we're here to get discovery, to figure out what happened. As we allege, they go into the MERS system, which is designed, or at least as a part of it, as a function of its design, to obscure who actually owns what.
Yeah.
You need to turn that off. I really...
You don't work with this company.
I know it.
You just hang out here, you have coffee sometimes.
Yeah, visit an attorney or two.
Yeah.
Are they working in the mortgage area? Because in the mortgage area, you know, they've been using robo-signed documents.
They still use robo-signed documents that are forged from lender processing services. Are they still using these documents in order to commence lawsuits?
Yeah, Bethany Hood. I mean, they, were forged.
No idea.
I'm sorry, Counsel. I'm all the confusion. I'm not sure if you heard my question. Did you have a verified?
Did you have a verified? Response. I have no comment. Thank you.
Oh, so you won't answer whether or not there's a verified chain of custody for the note or anything? Okay.
When I was a civil rights and employment trial attorney in the 1990s, I thought I knew what corruption and abuse were. Now, that experience in no ways prepared me for what I would see after I was an escrow attorney some years later. Now, keep in mind that all of this is cyclical. Remember the Keating Five and the S&L crisis of the 1980s, Enron in the 1990s, and now this. All of it to disfranchise the middle class. Now, the bankers and their associates knew that this would happen, and they will often stop at no end to unlawfully enter and to foreclose on properties so that they may attempt to launder the entire transaction. That is why they will run from cameras, that is why they will lie about their own identity, and they have even accused me of issuing a death threat to keep cameras away from them. All of this is documented on KingCast Mortgage Movies Journal.
Well, counsel, where's the death threat? So instead, what you're going to get now is an ethics complaint for a violation of candor to the tribunal under 3.3 because you know it was a lie.
I'm not a deadbeat. I owned a business that was successful for over 34 years until the banks ruined the economy. Now the banks are trying to steal my house along with everybody else's. I went in for a modification loan and met a criminal entity as well.
And so this is the type of thing that needs to be addressed. I mean, they're making a mockery out of the system. And their attorneys, get away with bloody murder every day. And attorneys for the people like I was, and like these guys over here, Richard and these guys, we go through holy hell trying to help people, and we need your help.
Thank you, Chris.
MERS is utilized as a means of obfuscating the ownership, actual ownership, with a beneficial interest in the notes and deeds of trust of citizens all over the city. So what you have is a concerted effort by the mortgage lending community and servicers to obfuscate the actual ownership of the obligations, making it very difficult for homeowners to find out who owns their loan. And as the Bain Court, our Supreme Court, noted, makes it very difficult for homeowners to address issues of defaults or arrearages.
no matter who you are and how much money you're making, you and your family deserve a safe house to yourself.
You can't appeal to the morality of the other side. They don't really give a damn.
They want to colonize the people.
I had prior experience in the securities industry as a registered representative, selling securities, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all types of complex securities. And then so I had that background. They sell off the note, and then they make me an unwitting, undisclosed party, third party to an investment contract. That is, they'll tell you that notes are allowed to be sold. And yeah, so what that notes are allowed to be sold? What about the contract that I was induced by fraud to sign when in fact there was not any loan? There was no loan given to me. There was no consideration given by them. Nobody is damaged. The person that is initiating the lawsuit, they are not damaged. The person that originated the loan, which in my case is Homestar Mortgage Services, they are not damaged. They sold the note, and when I left the closing, they had the original that they could then now place into the trust.
Which they don't place into the trust. That's the problem.
And the problem is that it doesn't even go in the trust. They say it's going into the trust, but they never end up putting them in the trust. They ended up destroying them. And then ultimately, what do you have? You have a trust and investors that invested in this trust, and they invested in air. They were told they were investing in loans. What did they invest in? They invested in a trust that doesn't even contain the loans inside of that trust that they invested in.
Counsel, this is a public proceeding. Don't shut the door on me, especially not on video. You know better than that. Oh, no, you gotta cancel it? This is part of it. Your Honor? Let's have a chat then. Now, how did JP Morgan get the note if it was in a trust in 2006, then you got us about 2008? Well, how did that happen?
I'm not going to answer any questions.
Okay, but you don't hate the camera, you just don't want to talk when it's on.
I'm not going to talk about a pending case.
Oh, well, why not?
It's just how I do things.
Oh, I see. Okay. Last year, many of us were interviewed for the upcoming movie Evicted: How the Banks Colonized Us. In a nutshell, what we were discussing is a pattern and practice of criminal and quasi-criminal conduct on the part of the banking and mortgage industries that has resulted in unlawful foreclosures and evictions that are being documented throughout the country and right here in Seattle. Much of the problem lies in the fact that our government agencies and courts are reluctant to follow the law and to punish these institutions or to levy fines and costs against them when they circumvent recording laws. This results in grave social and economic injustice, not only against specific homeowners who face unlawful foreclosures even when they are able to make the reasonable payments, but in a derivative sense to school children, to teachers, and to the entire community because millions of dollars are not being posited into the county recorder's offices. And this, of course, has catastrophic consequences in these troubled economic times for communities. School children, families, businesses, and of course the homeowner face socioeconomic crises as homes are repossessed, families are rendered homeless, and the downward spiral of hopelessness begins to claim an entire community. Now this, of course, all started back in 2008 because of related issues in the banking and mortgage industry that led to the banks being bailed out while the consumers got the short end of the stick, sold out.
Whether or not it's tolerable in a civilized society to have the playing field vertical and stacked against the consumer. And, can we tolerate the deception, the lack of transparency, the brute power play of these institutions? No, they need to come down. They are not serving humanity.
Great day to me, please, counsel. The money for the teachers is right here in Marie McDonnell's forensic report and examination.
And if we could just have Ms. McDonnell present her findings so that the public doesn't feel that, again, things are being hidden from them, that, again, people are being bought and paid for by the banks.
It has to happen. You owe it to us to do it. And that's it. So who's going to contact me today before I leave?
Thank you, Mr. King.
Now I got 5 seconds. Anyone?
of the 10 signatures that are on my home loan, there's only one legal signature, mine. One of them turns out to be the name of a porn star, Autumn Bourne.